Welcome to the Supplement Engineer Podcast. My name is Robert Schnetsky. Today we are joined by the co-founder and CEO of one of the hottest brands in the supplement industry today, Mr. Michael Bischoff Jr. of Glaxon Labs. Welcome, Mike. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be uh, invited to do these sorts of things. It's kind of surreal though. You talk about this brand as like this hot new brand, and it's definitely a surreal experience for me because um, I feel like it's been a year of just trying to catch up, and it's going to be that way for a little bit longer. So it's nice to hear some of that validation, and I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely, man. It's since y'all burst on the scene. I mean, I don't even think it's been an official year yet, and it's been new release after new release, and we're going to cover all of that during the course of our conversation today. But I want to rewind back to anytime I have a guest the first time on the show, I want to get their origin story. So, how did you come to get into the supplement space? Because the supplement industry is unique in that people come from all different walks of life. There's not like a supplement science degree that you get, or supplement marketing, or supplement founding companies, or whatever like that. So how did you come to be in this crazy ass industry that we call home?
Oh man, it's a really long story, which I'll give you more details on like some other time. But in short, I've always been uh, sort of interested in things that you can eat or consume or take that like change the way that you feel or perform, for better or for worse. Um, and in my early 20s, I kind of got opportunity to get into uh, the sales side of the industry. Um, I don't want to get into like too much detail on that, but I kind of got like a to be a part of some sales and some brands that like grew pretty rapidly. Um, got a little bit of exposure to the contract manufacturing side of the business. Uh, over the course of that time was just like really young, and it was an exciting thing to be like a part of because like I had it was a series of circumstances that sort of led me to that were like totally preposterous. Like I never would have um, gone to college and then graduated and been like, hey, I'm gonna go sell supplements and get into manufacturing. So I got exposure to that. Long story short, um, the people that I was working with ended up, I think, splitting off into uh, sort of their own, like two separate entities. And like in that kind of confusion, I was like, maybe I'll take a stab at uh, some contract manufacturing work myself. Ended up back in Houston around that time. I had some support to do that. Uh, it took years to really figure out like the animal that it is to manufacture in this industry. It's still like a daily struggle because it's like a really fast moving, super demanding, changing. You can think that you've got like everything you could possibly know about something,
Mhm.
and it's like, well, really you just kind of resign to the fact that like you're always going to be refining it no matter how long you do it. Um, so after I had like a couple years of refining that under my belt, started working with some people that like Joey, like Sam Strange, more recently Mark Post, but like people who have experience building brands and formulating marketing and things like that. There's TK. I don't know if you know Taylor Knox, but like some of these people. And so the goal was to kind of like take the contract manufacturing that we do, which is kind of shifted more into like a smaller, like medium-sized R&D firm that like we do really well with things where we get like a brand that doesn't have a whole bunch of footprint, and then we can have you know a lot of input on formula and kind of value, because like targeting like different value adds and white space in the market. Like, okay, well, this is what we see a lot. Like, we do work with these kinds of products, and they work for these reasons. So if you position it this way with this kind of formula that we can flavor that hits your price targets, like just really in-depth stuff. And I don't know, I'm sure there's lots of other contract manufacturers that offer similar support, but like that's where we've been able to do well. Um, Not really after having a clean area floor that's the size of a Costco or something. Like that's not the goal.
Yeah.
Um, so that kind of juxtaposed with our own brand goals, um, and then we kind of segue into Glaxon. I think I said this to someone else recently, but kind of had a little bit of a cocky, like, oh, okay, well, we'll really dominate in wholesale. We know what people
Mhm.
want. We can make a superior product. Like we have control of our quality, in our supply chain, and we can split test things and so forth.
Mhm.
Um, and we have been like really successful. There's so much that we have to do, and we're still like a small brand in the grand scheme of things. Uh, so I'm really grateful for where we're at now. I just think that uh, we were naive in our ambitions, because like once you have some success, and then you
Yeah.
start like looking at what it takes to get to the next level of success and the next level, like it's the ambitions are like exponential, because if your foundation doesn't account for that kind of growth, like, or half a dozen other things that aren't like sexy pieces of a supplement brand, like if those things aren't right, like you're not going to be able to offer uh, things on the level that you want to, or scale to the level that you want to, or please as many. So I don't know. I don't want to go on too long of a diatribe about all of that, but that's kind of how I got where I am today.
Mhm.
We're in the middle of an aggressive uh, tune up, I guess you could say.
Mhm.
It'll be interesting to see how that's received, but so far it's been good.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Um, let's get to the founding of Glaxon. How did y'all decide on the name, the style, the branding, the message? Obviously y'all are based in Houston, so you've got a close tie to the space program, the astronauts, all of that stuff, and that's heavy on the cartoons y'all put out, the images. They're all incredibly well done, and the
hmm
branding has been super spot on. How did y'all? Was it a collective effort? Is this a vision you had? Is it something the team kind of generated together? How did that work?
yeah, it's totally collective effort. I think we had like split tested some like product concepts previously, like really small, like on a retail level. Like we have a good relationship with like a retailer or something, and maybe we'll split test like a product concept or something on a really small batch level, like completely, like it doesn't make any money, but we kind of did that late last summer. We did a little bit more aggressive work with some other brands that we're planning on bringing into this sort of umbrella, like that isn't contract manufacturing. That's more of like an extension of it that operates on its own, and that distributes brands, and has the team to scale them and stuff.
Hmm.
And in doing that, like there's like a repository of formulas that Joey and I have worked on uh, for more than a year, like before we got started.
Yeah.
Um, so there's like that's kind of where the formulation side came from, and then we spent a ton of time together. Joey and I did. I mean, he is leagues better than I could ever be at it. But I think we offer like a decent juxtaposition to each other that like kind of makes like a product that wouldn't exist in if one of us tried to do it. And so we worked on that. We brought in TK to help us with some of the branding. We went through label iterations with some outside third party people, and if I showed them to you, you would like. Man, I'll have to send you something in a text message after this. But
Yeah.
we went through like label iterations that are like nothing like this at all. And TK's young. He's kind of like we get along with him well. He's got our energy.
Hmm.
Um, and so we were just like kind of kicking around. Like we wanted to do something science fiction themed. We wanted to do something that was a little bit different. My main focus was pulling on something that gives us like a sort of a track that we can follow, like a roadmap. Like we got to
Hmm.
pick like somewhere so we know where the borders are, and then we don't have to like sit around all day trying to figure out like ideas that are just really broad. Um, And so we tried to pull some nostalgic, like sci-fi, like 80s, like themed
Mhm.
things, and use those for inspiration. Um, and that's kind of where like the names and the first iterations of the products and that thing look. The comic thing, I can't even remember. I think we were discussing like trying to like tell stories that were funny or whatever it was,
Mhm.
and turns out that TK knew this guy that lives in LA that does comics, and okay, we'll hit him up and see if like he can do 3 panel comics for us or something, and we can like build a relationship there.
Yeah.
And that kind of fell right into place, and it's perfect because it's a really awesome way to engage with people and like be cheeky and self-deprecating a little bit. And it's we have so much content that's uh, a little bit intimidating. Like the supplement labs are 100% intimidating. Like if I were to go show that to just a regular consumer, like you're gonna lose someone in like 2 minutes. But the comic is complete opposite.
Right.
So I think that's really cool. A lot of just chance that would happen. Around like late last summer, before that, we got involved with Sam Strange, who had Pitbull Labs, which is something that this umbrella of ours that's building out these brands, like we're going to be involved in sort of bringing that back to the market,
Mhm.
um, probably before the end of this year. And so he's had a lot of cool input. He's got a totally different take than the rest of us. He's a totally different person. Um, and then more recently, we brought in Mark Post, and I don't know if you're familiar with Mark Post, but um, he's got a lot of experience on the rest of us, especially running brands that are much, much, much larger. And that's been a huge learning experience, because it's like, how do you juxtapose this like really edgy, we're going to do whatever we want. We'll formulate products that like don't make sense in certain categories because we like them, with
Yeah.
like someone who's more old guard that's got relationships and like massive distribution, like, and they're going to tell you like that's not going to be possible, and you might have good reason to do it differently, but
Mhm.
I'll just tell you why it won't work. And so it's like, okay, well then we'll just get really creative and work a little bit harder to make it work. And that's kind of what this next iteration's about. um anyway.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
So okay, yeah, I knew we've had Joey on the podcast before, and like you said, I mean, super sharp guy. I mean, he's talking on another level compared to where most consumers and even a lot of industry insiders are. There's very few people that can keep up with him from like the science and the ins and outs of everything.
Yeah.
So when y'all come to formulate a product together, how does it work? Do y'all kind of brainstorm like what category you want to jump into, or do you just have like an ingredient that kind of serves as like the jumping off point? Walk us through a little bit of product creation. So, I mean, obviously, when you start a brand, you got to have a pre-workout, you got to have an amino formula. Those are kind of like the things that you
Right.
need to have as you're going through with everything. So, I guess from once you take care of the basics, what is the next jumping off point to get? Is that identifying maybe a niche in the market that is not maybe fully addressed in your eyes, or y'all could do something better? How does that work?
It is all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
um in the beginning, it was like, in the beginning, I think Joey and I probably spent 6 months with like traditional wholesale categories: pre-workout, pump powder, pump capsule, sleep products, um, GDA, nootropic, uh, those like types of category that like every wholesale brick and mortar store, just like that's how they order products.
Mm-hmm.
So we're like trying to think about creating a stackable range that, like, the way you formulate one product affects three others.
Mm-hmm.
And that's more complicated than people will probably ever appreciate. We probably overcomplicated it, because we were like really like, okay, well, what if somebody wants to take all 8 of these in one day?
Yeah.
And then, like, we had like silly arguments, like, well, we can't do that because then someone can't take all 8 products in one day, and like, it'll be too much of this or not enough of that.
Yeah.
Um, and and so that was kind of like our first take on it. So like up until maybe January of last year, like what we had planned was just to just to really kill it in like traditional wholesale categories.
Hmm.
I think we spent the most time on Adrenal. We spent quite a bit of time on greens, like just trying to make it more of like a performance take on the category,
Hmm.
but like still enough greens to call it a greens. Um, and then from there, we've just, like I said, I'm staring at it right now. We have like a repository of things that we want to do that are costed out that, like, God willing, we'll be able to do them all. And so
Yeah.
we've been pulling from that based on like circumstance, and perceived demand and things like that. So um, thermal was the going to be this cool like emergence of Baiba, which like I think I tried to get that a couple years ago. Joey knew what it was. Like that was awesome. Like to have the opportunity to get like a sustainable source of that raw material.
Yeah.
Um, and then from there, we've just kind of had I mean, in a Corona world, like we've just kind of had uh, a weird situation to like throw products out in, because you just don't know what you're going to get. I mean, there's like a ton of demand for immune products.
Yep.
We did a stress product instead first, which that's maybe my favorite product we have.
Serenity is awesome. Yeah, I'm just gonna. I don't get any paid endorsement for this for the listeners out there, but Serenity is freaking awesome. I've given it to my wife when she's gets super stressed about school or she needs sleep or she's got like family drama with her parents, sisters, in-laws, all that kind of stuff. But I mean, that product is hands down, I think, in my top three of the products I've tried from y'all.
Yeah, I mean, it works. I think it might be too strong
Yeah.
for a larger market. For like an educated consumer like you, it's perfect because you have no issue being like, oh well, I'll just take one or two and not three, or I
Right.
won't take three 5 days in a row. But like for someone else, they're just like going to take three for 5 days in a row because that's what
Hmm.
they do. They just take what it says. Um, but yeah, that product is like, Joey and I had like an obsession with the phosphatidylserine. Um, really wanted to use it. It's so expensive. So there was like a period probably early January, February where I'd go into Joey's lab every day and like get like a gram cap of phosphatidylserine because we had like gotten some of it in. We had a couple different samples from a couple suppliers. Like we had
Yeah.
a good 65% that was sort of stable.
Hmm.
Um, and it kind of was born from there. Um, Joey was like, I remember putting the formula together and I was like, oh, we can't fit that much ashwagandha in this thing. And he was like, what about Shodan?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the hell is Shodan? And he was like, oh, I have a sample over here. You got to check it out. It's 60 or it's 35% with analytes.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Super
what?
potent.
Why didn't you tell me that there was a 35% with analyte? Like, that's amazing. I would have been taking this all the time. Um, and so it's just like a cool, that's what happens when you have an environment with a lot of like people that like to tinker with stuff a lot.
Hmm.
So I love that product. I think to answer your question in short, like we have a bunch of methodologies for trying to figure out what products to come out with.
Hmm.
Now we have so many traditional ones that like it's just about refining that and then building around it. Um, so it depends how we're going to do it, but it's not a simple methodology because it changes often, and then there's a lot of unplanned creativity that happens that like supersedes things that are planned.
Hmm.
And that definitely happened. We were working on an immune product to release, and Serenity just made more sense, so we dropped that first, and it's outsells the immune product like 10 to 1.
I would imagine so, especially given well, I mean, you would expect both of them to perform really well given the current climate. I mean, people are obviously concerned about immune support, immune function, quote unquote, boosting it if you can.
Yeah,
But I mean, stress, the amount of stress people are going through, whether it's, job related, finance related, personal or, relationship wise from being trapped inside or, going stir crazy with the current world, the state of affairs.
yeah,
Yeah, I think that was very fortuitous and very smart, astute release and timing
yeah.
from all of that.
It looked more planned than it was, I can tell you that much. But it was just like kind of one of those moments where like, oh shit, this is the perfect time for this. And it doesn't look
Yeah.
like the perfect time for this, but it is. Like I remember somebody like around that time, they were like, yeah, alcohol sales are through the roof. Like
Yeah,
this
they
is
are.
like a perfect alternate to people who are stir crazy and drinking too often or whatever. And it is. Uh, I think, and then I was a little bit like when we first launched it, I was a little bit concerned with like I didn't want to push the narrative too much. Like you should just not be stressed ever, because
Yeah.
that's not the intention. But
Hmm.
I think I use the product a couple times a month at like the maximum dose, and like it makes a world of difference. It really does because you just get like
Absolutely.
stuck in this loop of like unproductive, stressful thinking or whatever.
Yeah.
And it like 100% makes that go away. My wife loves it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Since that included, that was one of the first products that, I mean, at least I came across. I know some other companies or products include Shodan, but let's say you take roughly an equivalent amount of either Sensoril or KSM 66. Do you notice anything different if you're getting somewhere in the neighborhood of a similar with analyte content between the different forms of ashwagandha?
I hear a lot of people talk about that. Um, People that I respect, like Tim at Natural Body. I think he had some thoughts on the differences between, and I know Justin seems to get that question every once in a while. In fairness, like I don't know um, if I take 600 milligrams of ash of a 2.5 or 5%
Hmm.
versus whatever it is, like 100 milligrams or 120 milligrams of Shodan.
Yeah.
Um, they all kind of work for me.
Hmm.
I think that the Shodan has a more pronounced effect, but it's just been easier for me to like. In fairness, it's been easier for me to take a lot of it.
Right.
You know what I mean? I can go and like get a gram capsule of Shodan if I want to, and
Hmm.
if I want to do the equivalent with KSM, it's like several capsules, and it's
Yeah.
a totally different thing. I know that there's other things in there. There's other constituents of the ashwagandha that are desired. I
Hmm.
don't know how well known those things are, though.
Gotcha. I want to ask one quick manufacturing question. I know I don't want to harp on this because the focus of our talk is on Glaxon, but y'all are in Houston. Humidity is a bitch down there. I'm originally from New Orleans. We deal with hot mugginess. It's like you get swamp ass just walking outside, even if it's 5:30 in the morning. From a
Hmm.
manufacturing standpoint, what kind of challenge does that represent, if any?
Um, yeah, everything clumps. Uh, it's yeah. I mean, the heat's a problem, and you got to. Um, it's a serious like that's taken very seriously here because you can lose a
Mhm.
lot of money.
Right.
So I think we know just as about as much as we can know about like the use of silicates and things like that to prevent clumps and
Hmm.
and mixing and so forth. Uh, I really don't like using a lot of those materials, depending on like their effectiveness. But it's kind of like I put it on the same kind of ratio as you would like you know how much effect do you get for this amount of money?
Hmm.
How much effect do you get for like this amount of potential clumping or like, how much you're gonna have to nurse that issue over time.
Yeah.
And there's not really that many that outweigh uh, the risk. In my opinion, I think phosphatidylserine, yeah, 100%. But you're not gonna put it in water. You're
Right.
not gonna put it in a powder. I mean, I guess that there's some people that do, but it's not gonna mix very well into water.
Hmm.
Um, The glycerol, so popular, so desired.
I was gonna say that and betaine are the two that I'm most thinking about with regards to humidity and having
Oh, the
notorious clumping issues.
betaine anhydrous.
Yeah.
We don't actually have issues with that one.
Okay.
And I don't know. I mean, I know because I have to. There's like maybe it's used often with glycerol because of it's a similar osmolytic type of play, and so
Right.
like those two just get like lumped into the same.
Hmm.
We don't really have any issues with the betaine. But with the glycerol, it's really just a matter of time.
Mhm.
You can't like it's just a matter of time. So if you put a little bit of glycerol in a product and you put a ton of silicate, maybe you get more time, but eventually, like it's gonna become clumpy. It's just I don't think you can avoid the nature of the raw material for that long.
Yeah. Mhm.
Um, and so I'm not a huge fan of glycerol, and I don't think that the effects of it are that significant to justify like an entire niche industry's like you know it's like a laborious thing for so many people to use that ingredient on a massive scale. And you're
Yeah.
going to put it on pallets and send it all over the world. Uh, and what you got to do to it or be willing to replace. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you could take it out of formulas, and I don't know that you.
I don't think
Pepsi
you would.
challenged that thing, and I don't think people would be able to tell you which one has it and which one don't. It's a
I would
cool
agree.
ingredient though. It's not like it's not worthless, but it's not. I don't think it's make or breaking any formula
No, not at all.
unless it's just a glycerol formula. But then I think you could just go and have a liquid. That would
Yeah.
be cool.
Yeah, and it's, I've mentioned this a couple of times before, is that if you go and look at the actual glycerol studies, the effective amount is 1 gram per kilogram of body weight, and the most we're seeing in supplements is 5 grams of a 65% yield. So you're getting somewhere in what, actually 3.5 grams of actual glycerol, which is going to be nowhere near, if you're a 70 kg athlete or somebody, you're really not going to get much of the benefits at all from the benefit from glycerol. So I think you could remove it and avoid the clumping issue, because if from the brand side, if the product clumps, you're getting things. Is the product safe to use? Is it still effective? Am I going to get sick from it? Why is it clumping? You've got to answer all of these things that waste so much time dealing with these people that you'll never get it.
But I think a liquid product would be really cool. Maybe like a flavored liquid that you could get like a 15-gram dose at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we'll have to do something like that.
That could be interesting.
Just I
Um,
guess add on for anything really.
yeah, yeah. With the brand and the way y'all decided to display the supplement facts panels, virtually everything is transparently dosed. There's a few things that you have prop blends with. The amino blend that y'all have, the super shroom blend, the beta berries and greens product. There's
hmm
certain elements of that are cloaked in a proprietary blend. What is the driving force, I guess, behind that? And then just in general, what are your thoughts on proprietary blends? Good, bad, or it's case dependent?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you can convince people that you have a compelling enough case that you've got IP to
Hmm.
hide, that you went to like certain links to get, I think then you kind of have to ask yourself as a consumer, like, okay, well, do I trust this company or not?
Right.
Um, and that's really ultimate. That's the ultimate question because you could say that about something and it's not true and it looks like it is, and that's the situation.
Hmm.
So hopefully people trust us when we do that. With the MyoSeq, like that's 100% not something that we're trying to disclose. We actually had some
Yeah.
issues with that because there's some international distribution where they need the amino acids disclosed, and like we're like, okay, well then we'll just won't use MyoSeq.
Yeah.
Um, the other thing with MyoSeq is that someone else could figure that out. Um,
Hmm.
we've like Joey did a supplemental lab, and he sort of gave. There's the road is there, the roadmap's there. So like if you want to go figure that out for yourself, you can.
Hmm.
And if you do, you might find that your amino acids are listed in the same format that ours are.
Hmm.
Um, and then with Super Shroom, I think we've sort of disclosed what's in it, but we don't on the labels, and it's basically just an even amount of every mushroom in the blend.
Hmm.
There's some other like mushroom blends that are out there. They were missing one of the mushrooms that we had, and also uh, the ratios aren't. Uh, they're not like the same across the board.
Yeah.
Um, I think our logic on the super shroom had more to do with the most expensive mushrooms are listed first. if you like wanted to go supply chain them, and then we purchase it as a pre-blend.
Mm-hmm.
And so to like split it up into a like a fully disclosed label, it's kind of a waste of time. It's just going to cost us more money, and then we're going to have to do
Yeah.
additional testing and stuff like that. So it might be something that we open up like at the end of the day, because it kind of is like an unopened or like a non-disclosed
Mm-hmm.
thing that people do know if they ask us. But we don't get really a lot of consumer questions about that. Like they're just like, "Oh, this is mushroom blend. Like that's cool. There's a gram of it."
Yeah.
And then I don't know if there's any others. I guess that the Nicolinase is also one that's not
Yeah.
disclosed. And then that one was more of a um, we like sort of tweaked out a ratio of that, and it sort of
Mm-hmm.
felt different than other iterations of it. And so it kind of just was like a compelling way for us to pre-blend these three different cholines in house and
Mm-hmm.
then put them in drums, and then like we can use that intermittently without having to uh, calculate it retroactively. I think in the beginning cholinase was going to be a little bit fancier than it ended up being,
Yeah.
um, with the phosphatidylcholine
Mm-hmm.
like being part of that blend. But I think you'll see some of those things come back here in the future. Um, but yeah, that one was just more of like an ease of use situation.
Okay.
Because I think we have it peppered out, like peppered in like probably 6 different SKUs.
Yeah,
Um,
it's in I know it's in the nootropic, it's in Adrenal, it's in Specimen. Um it's also in wasn't it also in Thermal, I think?
no, thermal, we just have
Regular choline.
yeah, the vitacholine, like a gram of it, or something like that, or maybe 500 milligrams. I have to check. But that was just kind of like a cool pair with the carnitine.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
675 of vitacholine. I just pulled it.
oh, that I think that's just to hit the daily, because they have the daily value for choline now, which also
Right.
threw a wrench in our pre-blend, because I think we would have calculated things a little differently. I'm not sure when that came out. It might have been early this year
Hmm.
or late last year when the FDA published an RDA for choline.
Right. Yeah, I've started to see just a few brands start at least starting to update their SFPs with that on there,
Hmm.
which I think is really good because choline is an essential nutrient. It's not most people don't get enough of it because it's in egg yolks,
Hmm.
beef liver, but outside of that, most people probably aren't getting enough.
No, I agree. I agree. Most people probably don't get enough of it. I think I get too much, um, but that's another topic.
Yeah,
I don't know if you supplement with cholines a lot, but I feel like sometimes I overdo it, and it has kind of like a fogging effect. Uh,
absolutely. Yeah, I get that
yeah.
issue mostly with um, alpha GPC, CDP choline. I never seem to get kind of in a haze, but whether it's a product has too much alpha GPC or just somehow I've gotten too much huperzine just accumulated in my system over the course of the week from trying different nootropics or pre-workouts or something like that. So now it's almost I'm on a mission almost to try to find either like nootropics or pre-workouts that don't have it because huperzine is almost lumped in everything these days. And I'm not against the ingredient, but
We
I'm
don't
against
have it.
the
We don't have it. We only have it in sleep.
exactly, yeah, and that's what I
Yeah.
like. It's but you look at across the other brands. I'm not going to name anybody, but you look at some other brands, and it's in every single product they use. I'm just thinking, where's your methodology? Where's your thinking? Because if somebody goes and uses several of your products, they're going to get thrown into this massive brain fog. So it's
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Not yeah, you will. And I think it's kind of disruptive on like coordination and some mind muscle stuff.
agreed.
Or at least in my opinion. And then I hate it. Like I hate if I get like too much huperzine in me, like it's a mess. It takes like 3 days to get like that to go
Yeah.
away, and I get like kind of whacked out uh from all the like just routine sources of choline that I get.
Hmm.
And then I usually don't realize that's happened until like 2 days later. I'm like, oh, it's because I drank like whatever that somebody's got a hefty amount of huperzine in there, and now,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, so I'm right there with you, and I love
Yeah.
CDP. CDP choline is definitely
That's my
it's
my absolute
probably
favorite.
Yeah, well, you know what? The phosphatidylcholine is 100% like my favorite, but it's
Hmm.
like not super accessible. And I think we have a forget with Joey, but we have a powder on it. I forget what the standard is on it. Like the highest one, I think it might just be. I think it might be 50.
Yeah, I've not experimented as much with phosphatidylcholine. It's mostly been alpha GPC and CDP. Those are the two I kind of go back and forth
Hmm.
with. I just from like a like a formulation standpoint, just doing my own stuff here, just trying out different things. I do need to try more phosphatidylcholine just because
I gotta
it's
send you
got a
some.
bunch of other benefits.
I'll send you a bag of it. I think we have a decent amount, and I think you'll like it. Uh,
Cool, thanks, man.
yeah, yeah.
That'll be awesome. The next thing I want to talk about. So we touched on thermal a little bit at a couple
Hmm.
of different junctures in our discussion so far. And the flavor I had was kiwi cooler, and this just kind of serves as a jumping off point for the entire Glaxon line. First off, y'all have some really really cool product or flavor names. The flavors are unique and they're delicious. So I mean, you're kind of hitting like a trifecta from the flavoring standpoint. You got intriguing names, intriguing flavor combinations, and you're actually nailing those. So it's one thing to have a cool idea like a peach mango or a peach nectar or something, but if you can't deliver on it, it doesn't really matter. You've got a catchy name and a catchy combo that tastes like shit. But y'all are
Mm.
hitting all three avenues. You've got a unique combination, intriguing names, and something that tastes really good. So walk us a little bit through the flavoring process, how y'all decide on flavors. Is that kind of ingredient driven? Is it stuff that you guys like? And how do you come up with some of these unique combinations? Like the greens formula, the burst berry tea was awesome.
You like? Is that your favorite one of the
Yeah.
greens?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like everything else. I guess the most consistent methodology is what flavor fits in this formulation the best, because
Hmm.
these things all have their own uh, effect on that. Outside of that, it has to do with supply chain. Like, do we already use these flavors? Do we have like, is it gonna be an easy thing? Can we make as much as we want? Like, or do we have to like, build in lead times and extra costs? Because this isn't something we deal with a lot.
Yeah.
Um, and then, third, it's kind of just like market. If we get like lots of demand, or if we use a flavor over here and that flavor just outsells every other flavor, then, it's something to look at. Like, okay, well, maybe people just really want this. Like, where else
Yeah.
can we use it? I think early on we just kind of forced whatever we wanted for some of the early iterations in the
Hmm.
brand, like late last year, and then got a little bit better at that over time. And like there's certain things like citrus flavors just work really good with thermal.
Yeah.
It's an easier product and formula to flavor. um, the greens product's actually sort of difficult to flavor, but there's some things we did there um, on accident that make it easy to flavor.
Yeah.
And that's a cool conversation too. So we do on the contract manufacturing side, we work with like several flavor houses,
Hmm.
um, and different customers that want different flavor houses, or whatever it is. Maybe they have codes built somewhere, and
Yeah.
we just kind of plug and play and do that for them. But you learn like they all have different techniques. They all have different ways of masking and improving flavors that are outside of just a sweetness or a bitterness.
Okay.
And that stuff's kind of like a nuance that if you get good at it, you can kind of pick up on what people are doing from the other ingredients.
Yeah.
Um, and there's some things that we did on accident in greens, which is like what makes it taste so good, that I didn't know about until more recently. And then I was like, oh,
Gotcha.
people use this to make this not taste like shit, and we didn't know we were doing that.
Yeah.
um so to answer your question, like initially we kind of just did a lot of what we wanted. We did put some time and energy into flavors, but most of our time and energy was to launching the brand and to like having really cool formulas. um Now I think we're doing more of what you're saying. We want to have like all aspects,
Hmm.
and of course, like we're our harshest critics. So
Yeah.
there's flavors that I didn't like very much, and I'm
Okay.
kind of the mind where like, well, I should like every flavor we do,
Yeah.
if I can, if that's something I can achieve. Um, but I'm happy that you like them. I think the thermal flavors, both of them are awesome. I would be sort of shocked if someone didn't like one of them. The greens flavors, I kind of feel the same way, and then
Hmm.
it just comes down to opinion. Like someone's gonna want one of these.
Right.
Uh, I think the specimens taste pretty decent. Uh, the amino is a little bit more difficult because it's like you just have a lot of interaction with that amount of aminos to like overcome it.
Right.
But you can get it pretty good. Um, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see in the second iteration how some of that's received because like the things that we didn't put the most time in, like when we came back around,
Hmm.
we really we really put time on every piece of it, and it's obviously easier to do that. Like you can build a house and then paint the house, but the second time that you paint the house, like you're gonna know like different nuances about your house and why you might want to paint this different than this or
Hmm.
whatever.
Right.
Um, but I'm glad that you like those flavors. I gotta send you. I still have to send you some of this new stuff. I know I said I was gonna do that earlier this week, and then I was just
Hey man, it's
uh,
I'm not gonna I'm not gonna complain.
no, I know you're not. I
Yeah,
know you're
which
not. I know you're not. But
y'all were
I really do.
I was fortunate enough to beta test the pump formula plasma surge that y'all getting ready to release, and for the listeners out there, the apple flavor. I mean, I hope I'm not spoiling anything by saying it's
No,
apple
it's
flavored or
it's
apple
out.
juice.
It's well, no, it says
Okay,
Apple. It says Apple, right?
yeah. I mean,
You're all good.
it's
Yeah.
delicious, y'all. Again, you crush the flavor on that. I mean, I almost wish like there was a non supplement thing of like I just had a powder of like the flavoring of like the kiwi cooler and that apple because I just want to drink that stuff all day long. Just come out with like
I
a basic electrolyte formula of those two flavors, and we'll be good.
Man, I hope we can do that with every product because like when you make a formula that like you think is um like above board that like maybe it costs you a little bit more money than
Mhm.
a typical product to put that formula together, then when you can make it taste that good, like you really win.
So
And
good.
that's like what is hard, I think. But yeah, those are like favorites of mine as well. I love the plasma surge formula.
Yeah.
uh it's just like man, it's like a simple but like really elegant formula.
Hmm.
And I think that will probably catch some criticism because like there's nothing crazy about it. Um, but it works better than a lot of other stuff we tried.
Yeah.
And there's some people out there that have pretty loud uh platforms that like have given it a chance and they'll reiterate that. So I think that's good. But um the flavor's good. It's not as difficult flavor as before. Knack in a
Mhm.
pre-workout was um man,
It's
that
a
was
challenge.
like
It's super acidic tasting. I mean, I've got a bulk tub of it, and I take some every day, and I'll just dry scoop it. And man, it's I mean, it's it's super. If you've tried acetyl L-carnitine, it's kind of got a similar flavor. It's that acetyl group, that acetic acid that just
hmm
you're popping in it. It's definitely a challenge.
yeah, you get this like and then you get this weird like kind of like sulfuric kind of scent
Yeah.
and it's really off-putting to a lot of people. I mean, think about that. Like how we sold a lot of it too.
Hmm.
And like it worked. It was a good formula. We made it taste like pretty good. But like looking back, uh, that's nuts. I don't know anyone else that's put like knack in a powder, um,
Not
and
that
like a
nothing's coming
pump,
to mind in a
like
pump
in or
product. Definitely not.
at least like in the niche of sports supplements. I don't know if I've seen knack in a drink.
Not to my
Um,
knowledge, no.
it's like pretty ballsy move. Um, I'm shocked that you just dry scoop knack and drink it down every day.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take it in the afternoons or something for a little bit. Part for immune health, part for anti-inflammation, part for liver protection. Because like you mentioned earlier, alcohol has gone up, consumption has gone up in quarantine, and so to get my brain kind of in that, I need a mental lubricant some days to just kind of get my brain because I'm always go 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 trying to to write some of the stuff I need to. I kind of need to dampen that to get into like that
Hmm.
creative zone where I can just kind of let more of the fluff and pomp and circumstance dominate in the writing and less of like the science nerdy shit.
Got it.
So yeah, that's when. So that's I always just kind of take that as a little bit of a hepatoprotective measure.
Okay. Yeah, I like knack. I think It was an easy thing to pull out, though. I don't think it's something that we'll be using anymore.
Hmm.
Uh, in light of some more recent information on the raw material and the FDA's position on it,
Right.
which is like it is what it is. So I suppose we'll comply. But and I'm sure a lot of people are going to use NAC for a long time. I think you can get it in Walgreens and CVS and wherever you want to
Hmm.
buy supplements. They probably have it, but I think the rate of exposure that we have is like just doesn't warrant it, and it should. It's what I think we tried to do last time is what we did now with the new plasma surge. What we like the sort of this the glutathione synergy with citrulline, and then the citrulline synergy with arginine.
Yep.
Um, you know, and it works better than it did before. And we were
Yeah.
able to get like a really good partnership with Kai Wahako, and probably something we wouldn't have been able to achieve before because nobody knew who we were.
Hmm.
Um, which is actually you'll see maybe happen quite a bit in this second sort of facelift. We we've been able to get a lot more support than previous from certain raw materials suppliers and things like that, where I can like pick up the phone and I'm like, hey, I really need help to do this because like we want to put this out there, but we are having an issue with making it feasible.
Right.
Um, and so that's really neat. And I'm sure that there's brands out there that are way larger than us that have that kind of luxury, but we just haven't until now. Um, or maybe we had that luxury, but it was like an offshoot of someone else's brand that we help, but not directly. So that's really cool. I'm looking forward to more of that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Let's before we jump into the impending season 2 launch, I want to get your opinion on the 21 serving size that y'all have used in several products. Where did that come from? I mean, it's cool that everybody does the 40/20 or maybe
Mhm.
25 or 30 servings. Those aren't as common these days as they were maybe 5 years ago. And I would say almost the standard for a lot of things like pre-workouts, post-workouts, things like that. Fat
Yeah.
burners or the powder thermals are 40/20. So is the 21 serve just like a happy accident, to quote Bob Ross, or was it kind of like a middle finger to the industry? What? And then do you get any flack from consumers saying, why are you giving me 21 servings if there's 28, 29, 30, 31 days in a month?
You know, it is all that. Um, it is all of those things. It's like it's kind of like a mock you type of thing where it's
Mhm.
like, okay, well then we'll do 21. Um, it's also like people don't consume most of these products and they're not intended to consume them on a daily basis. So if
Yeah.
you're trying to frame up a month of use, like for someone, I think that's realistic time to re-up on a product, or approximately a month.
Hmm.
7 weeks seems to be a generous portion, like we'll give you 7 weeks worth of stuff. And, after 4 weeks, like you should have a little bit left over.
Yeah.
Um, and so our thoughts kind of like, we're like, where did the 20 come from? Because I think 21 is more arguably based on like weeks than like what is 21 based on? Like did someone
Right.
calculate like, oh, well, every 31 days, it's most likely that someone's going to work out 20 times? Uh,
Yeah, I guess
I
there's
don't
certain
know.
Monday through Friday you're working at and you're taking off the weekends maybe. So that's,
Maybe,
four, maybe. So that's,
maybe, but then I don't know anyone that like lifts weights on a daily basis.
yeah.
Like, more like maybe. 'Cause I think there's like we send product out to like some pretty advanced individuals when it comes to whatever they're doing, and they don't use a tub of stuff in a month unless it's maybe certain SKUs, not specimen,
Hmm.
not plasma surge. So that's kind of what it was. I mean, it's most purely based on like if we framed everything out as 30 servings, we wouldn't be able to give you people as good of a product.
Right.
And then wholesale markets sort of get used to something like that. And you have to abide by those rules or you're like not going to be competitive.
Okay.
So if we make a banger 30 serving plasma surge, but then we aim to compete with the same price points as a market that's priced out based on 20 and 40, it's going to be really difficult. Like,
Right.
I don't know that our value propositions are significant enough for us to overcome it.
Hmm.
Uh, and then you couple that with the fact that like no one's gonna not many people are gonna take this product every day.
Right.
And if they do, like, what's their end cost going to be? Is it going to cost them $2 every time they take it? Is that reasonable?
Yeah.
So those are questions like we probably are asking ourselves more now than before. Whereas before we were just like, okay, well, we need to kind of be in the mold of this, right? And
Yeah.
um, this second iteration, like we're in the mold. Like we're not just trying to be in it. Like we're like gonna overtly fit into the mold, and then like from within that, we'll be able to stretch it or break it or whatever you want to whatever analogy you want to use. I think ours is mold to break. That's kind of like this thing. And so if you ask anyone here, that's probably going to mean something different.
Hmm.
Um, but for me, it's kind of like if you want to scale a brand, like if you want to get in more like in front of more eyes and impact more individuals, like you have to fit into a certain mold, especially on like the wholesale level. Like they dictate what they're going to buy and why and where it fits on the shelf and what the price point is going to be. And like if you want to change that, then you might as well just sell direct to consumer. And these are partners that are very sophisticated and talented people that can put products in front of people and they make a huge difference, and so I totally respect that. Um, and I think if you can't fit into that, like if you can't get creative enough to fit what you've got into that without like making it better,
Hmm.
then you have no aim to ever break any mold. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's kind of my take on it. Not to go off on another tangent, but you know, the 21 and 42 really it's for cost and it's for sort of some industry standards that you see in like more micro market within sports supplements where you have like more higher end goods.
Yeah.
Um, I think there's some like if you go outside of sports supplements, I don't think it's as common.
Okay.
Right. I mean, you
Yeah.
might know better than I do, but I don't see it in any products
Mm-mm.
unless they're like kind of like A plus space or like A space sports supplements, like they're more fancy.
Yeah.
Um, I can tell you now that in the version 2, we dropped that on a couple SKUs because it doesn't
Hmm.
make sense.
Yeah.
And that's problem like for reasons that like that SKU isn't actually that specific to sports supplements, so it doesn't belong in that designation. Um, or because we figured out a way not to do it. Um,
Makes
and I
sense.
think, yeah, yeah,
Okay. All right. So the brand is coming up slowly on its 1 year anniversary, and y'all announced that it's time to stretch the mold, break the mold, shatter the mold, reform the mold, whichever analogy you want to take, as you mentioned. Um, is it too early to be doing a rebrand or a season two, in your opinion? Because we've seen brands that had maybe moderate success. I'm going to say, in my opinion, I think y'all have done a better job than some of these other brands that I'm thinking of, and they've gone through a rebrand, and it's fallen very, very poorly with the consumer base. It seems disingenuous or it just doesn't work. Is there any concern that? And I don't think y'all are going to botch the rebrand, but is that just maybe in the back of your mind? Hey, should we do this? Is it too early to do this, or are you setting yourself up to where every year from now on you're going to have to go and try to break that mold and improve upon it to where you have season 3 next year, season 4, in 2022 and those kind of things? So I realize I just kind of, assaulted you with, 6 different questions, but walk
no,
us
no,
through
I'll
this whole
probably,
thing.
hopefully I'll answer enough of those. There's a lot to unpack there. I think from from my perspective, and I think mostly internally, like this is something we have to do. And it's it's not like to sell out. I think once we get through it, like I can tell you right now, and if someone wants to call me out on it, they can. Like it's gonna cost us more money to do what we're about to do.
Mhm.
Buy product. It's gonna cost us more money to offer you something at the same price than before. Now we're just a little bit more confident that you're going to buy it. So we're going to take the risk. And we're going to fix something. Or if I wasn't like particularly, or if Joey or whoever, our customers gave us feedback, or wholesalers or whatever, and okay, well then we'll take that into account. Uh, we'll try to refine the product and make it better. Um, there's half a dozen reasons why we want to do that, and it's if you're gonna put a lot behind what you've done, and you really wanna try to scale it and get it into as many hands as possible, we're gonna address stuff now rather than later. I don't want to wait a year and then be like, oh, okay, here now I've now we added this value that we knew we could add before. Um,
Gotcha.
and I'm also keen to the fact that, like, once this brand is large enough, it's really difficult to do that.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, you send pallets all over the world. You can't just change something. I mean,
Correct.
right now it's going to be delicate enough as it is. Like, I work very closely with her wholesale partners to make sure that, like, they understand that, like, we've made upgrades to these products and we've done this for good reason. And, we're not trying to make your life more difficult. We're trying to make your life easier. We're trying to make it better. We're trying to, like, bring people back to your stores to buy this product. And we think that that will happen more often now. And here's why. Um, so whether or not we do that every year, that's another thing. Um, I think what we've done up until now has been like an amazing beta test of, like, what's possible.
Yeah.
I think in some respects we pushed the limit. I think sometimes we get more credit for that than I think we're due. Um, like, we carried this, like, designation of this, like, really disruptive brand that's, like, changing the industry and all that.
Hmm.
Um, I don't think you can do that acutely, like, anyway. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
maybe 5 years from now, you'll be able to look back and say, you know what, we did this, like, we did these things, and, like, now that's more normal.
Yeah.
And, like, maybe we were a part of that. But I don't think you can do that in an acute setting. And then I also don't think that you can do that unless you're really successful at what is, like, kind of generally sought after in our market. So,
Hmm.
if you can do those things really well, then you have the credibility to do something that may not be as normal. People would bring up maybe Serenity as, like, being some kind of outlier. It's not really an outlier product. There's a lot of products out there for stress. I
Yeah.
think that, um, for us to do it is kind of an outlier.
Hmm.
For us to do it and not market it as a cortisol product, and, like, put, like, a dancing woman on the, like, the hills are alive with the sound of music theme, like,
Yeah.
that's not super normal. But I think
Hmm.
it's really cool. I think it's really compelling. I think that it's probably more useful than just saying it's a cortisol product, which it's an awesome cortisol product. It's the best.
Absolutely.
Um, but I think that kind of is like an invitation for people who wouldn't otherwise look at a brand like ours.
Hmm.
Um, so I'm trying to get back to some of your questions, but I don't know if it's something that we'll be able to do every year. I think this is like a point in our branding where, like, we either grab, like, some of these torches, or we're not going to be able to grab them later. And so that's kind of where I've been compelled to do all of these things. I'm like, look, we got to do them all now. We got to do
Yeah.
them all now. Um, if we're fortunate enough to have, like, larger distribution in the near future, like, it's going to be a nightmare. Um, and I want to fix stuff or not fix, but I want to, like, if we learn something over time that, like, just makes something that much better for not that much more, like, well, let's just do it. And I'm sure that will happen again. And who knows? I just don't know if I'll be, like, as a brand, I don't know if we'll be this ambitious, like, in the next year again. We have a lot of stuff that's, like, not even that wasn't even brought to market yet. That's not even part of this kind of tune up,
Hmm.
which is going to be really cool. I got to send you some of that stuff too. We probably may have discussed some of it offline, but, um, I think this will work because I think we've been really upfront with a lot of our customers from the beginning.
Hmm.
Um, and so I think we have a lot of trust there. And I think, we're gonna kind of, like, teeter these out into the market, and I think their reception is going to be like, these guys are doing they're doing better, they're doing more for the same price.
Yeah.
So I don't know,
Okay,
we'll
cool.
see. I can't predict that. I hope that's how it's
Yeah.
received.
No, I'm very excited to see the full lineup and the I don't want to call it a rebrand, but the evolution and the release of the new season is what I'm very excited to see where it's going to go.
Hmm.
Um, the next thing I'm gonna ask you is you sent me some pictures offline, and I don't know if and if you can't get into this, then I'll just clip this segment from the podcast. But y'all teased some ice cream a while back for the when the TNS had their 2 year anniversary party, and then you sent me some pictures of some things that y'all were working on with that ice cream. Is this going to be an extension of Glaxon? Are y'all going to start getting more and more into the functional food space, or is this just kind of like a one off, just to kind of see, hey, let's just try something fun and go from there?
Um, I can tell you right now that it wouldn't be. It's not worth the time to just do it as a one off and like something that's cool. Um, so there it will become a thing. How involved Glaxon is in that thing is like to be determined. Um, I think I have some partners that like are involved in this sort of functional food aspect, and then
Mhm.
one of them has a decently successful ice cream already in wholesale distribution and grocers and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So it's like a really cool merging of opportunity. Um, and I think we can do something like that. I do know now though that like the distribution game in grocery is not like it's very sophisticated, and we like want to talk about like hitting like wholesale like markers like in sports supplement niche where like you have products that are 20 servings and they're this size and they cost this much and this that
Yeah.
one's like 100 times worse.
Right.
um 100 times worse. Like it's down to amounts of flavors that you have, and like we don't buy brands that don't have less than seven flavors to offer, and because you don't fit on our shelves that like have been this size for like 3 decades. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they fit on this size shelf, and they come in this size pallet, and they're in this size container, and like they can't weigh more than this, and like we buy them in flavor rows of seven, and like it really sophisticated, cool, really interesting, like to know.
Mhm.
um, so that's a big thing that like I'm working on separately to like bring to reality. Yesterday, I sent you some pictures because I was at the woman who has the facility that she makes ice cream now, and she made
Mhm.
up a bunch. Joey sent her a bunch of like ingredients, and then she's kind of like toying with different iterations of flavors and stuff. So I was there. I tried like 30 ice creams yesterday afternoon. It was pretty awesome.
It's a
Um,
good way to spend a day.
Yeah, it was like it was pretty funny. She wanted to use Magnolia, the Magnol and OKL that we have in sedative for like
Mhm.
she did I hope I'm not giving too much away, but it's ice cream, so be my guest, I guess. She did a lavender like relaxing ice cream, and she put the
Ah.
Magnolia in there, and she's like this awesome French lady, and like she saw Magnolia, and she was like, "Oh, it'll have the aroma of the Magnolia and the this and that." And I told her in advance, I was like, "Look, you're not gonna be able to flavor this one. Like we use like aggressive like artificial chemicals to make this possible, and even still it's a battle."
Yeah.
And she did it anyway. She didn't listen, and then like she wouldn't let us sample that one, and like I finally got to try it, and it was rough.
Mhm.
But it's just funny to see these two different industries like merging. There's also some really cool things that happen when you put supplements in ice cream, like things that you wouldn't know, they're not intuitive at all. Like if you put protein in ice cream, the molecular structure of proteins aerates the ice cream when it churns like more than otherwise. And
Oh,
so
cool.
if
So you
you
get a bigger
buy,
volume of it and stuff.
yeah, so your overrun is like ridiculous. Like like your overrun is like 10x what it should be when you add
Yeah.
like whey protein or collagen or whatever. And so if you are a fan of like Halo Top ice cream, like when you pick one of those up, it doesn't weigh anything.
Right.
right? And it's like it's sold by volume, not
Yeah.
by weight. And like there's like I mean they figured it out, like the ratio to where they can tell you that there's that much protein in the volume, but like
Hmm.
even still, like the amount of material that they need to do that aside from the whey, like it's not significant. Um, and it's by adding protein that they make it like air. It's kind of wild. I didn't know that. Like, I just thought that like they did it that way because they didn't want there to be as many calories. I mean, it
Hmm.
kind of doubles over in that,
Yeah.
because you end up with less sugar in it per volume. But that was kind of cool to learn. She messed with some other cool concepts. The one we sent to TNS, like that will never see the light of day
Hmm.
on a retail shelf because it was like just a luxurious ice cream that you might make that at your house,
Yeah.
and be like, wow, I put all these cool things together. This is amazing. But it would, I don't know how much money was in that thing, but like
Cost
doll,
prohibitive.
yeah, way cost prohibitive. Like, yeah, I mean, it was probably like $20 a serving to make it or something
Oh,
ridiculous.
Jesus.
You
Oh,
know, maybe that's an exaggeration, but anyway, it was
it's still
like it
pricey.
was it
Yeah.
was like $20 in raw materials in like a pint.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, so the ice cream is going to be a thing. I don't know like what it's going to look like when it's finished. I'm sort of planning to prep a batch test concept of it to kind of work with some close like retail partners where like they have freezers, and maybe we can overnight them some on
Hmm.
dry ice, and like they can kind of sell it and give us feedback.
Yeah.
I think it will do well. uh on the surface it's like really cool, and then it's like everything else, it's really complicated when you get into the weeds, like how am I going to make this reality, can we make it profitable, like we're going to have to put it in grocery stores, like what are their rules like.
Right.
um I think we could do well with it in the space that we're in, but like how many people have freezers, how do we figure out that supply chain, like that's still like in its infancy.
Yeah.
I'll have to send you some though when I have like a final like kind of beta batch that I can send out. I'll have to send you some of it.
Sweet.
It's pretty cool. I just don't know. Can you turn supplements into enough of a guiltless treat where like people are gonna buy them in a frozen way? Like if
Yeah. I
I
mean,
put
I,
like a
I think it might be possible, especially like if you got certain lipophilic compounds that are enhanced by the presence of fat. I think that could be a really cool thing. You start putting more of those fatty
Mhm.
soluble
Yeah, I
ingredients
didn't
in
want
there.
to
That's the way to.
I didn't want to get into that side of it too much because that's like really valuable information.
Right.
But anyone who wants to look into it can probably figure that out. But there may be some delivery methodologies with ice cream that are superior to like a lot of things,
Yeah. Then just
which is cool.
water or something. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, with just like water mixing your drink up or whatever, or maybe most capsules aren't that good. I don't know. It's like
Hmm.
that's something that like I'm trying to work out. Where I know if I could say that this is like superior because of this, and it tastes good, and it's frozen, and it's awesome, like that would be cool.
Yep.
How often people will do that, I'm not really sure about. Then there's like kind of concepts like if we were to make one that was okay for kids and it didn't have a ton of calories in it, and it wasn't like too rich,
Hmm.
and it's got maybe it has like lutein and some omegas or something like that. Like, would you give it to your daughter every day? Like, would that be like a um, kind of like a healthy treat, like like, all right, well, if we eat all our dinner, like you can have your you know this ice cream that's got vitamins that I want you to have anyway.
Right.
I mean, I give my kids omegas and lutein, astaxanthin, and things like that. If
Yeah.
it was in like an ice cream that was kind of guiltless, like maybe it was like 15 calories or something, um, that'd be kind of cool. It'd be an easy
Yep.
sell. So yeah, there's a lot to unpack in the ice creams, but by January there'll be something materially coming from our end. Like whether it's like a small batch test or just more looks.
Hmm.
Um, it's not like some it's not some novelty that we're just like trying to. flex. This was just an
Yeah.
interest in a thing that happened to work out, and I think that it's going to have a little bit to do with Glaxon.
Sweet. Um, Give us a little bit of an insight into your personal daily supplement regimen
Mm,
and your
this is
stim load as well. I know offline you said you're not a super crazy pre-workout stimulant user, but I guess including energy drinks, coffees, those kind of things. What's your typical stim and supplement payload each day?
man, it's pretty significant. It's very luxurious. Uh, I there's a lot in here that's not not Glaxon, so
Hmm.
I don't think this is going to sound sales pitchy. Um, I do take 3 Adrenal every morning when I wake up, and I have for a long time, or actually rather before I wake up. So I have an alarm that maybe my alarm goes off at like 4:45 or 5, depending on the day, and
Yeah,
I'll like kind of roll over and take 3 Adrenal, and then I'll like fall back asleep, and I wake up about like 45 minutes later, an hour later, and that's just what I like.
it's go time.
Uh, yeah, it's go time. So then from there, I kind of have like uh, I'll set up my routine like once a week. I'll like do the you know Monday, Wednesday, Friday, day and night like capsule kind of thing.
Hmm.
So I take krill oil every morning. I take 500 milligrams of NMN every morning.
Hmm.
I take 500 milligrams of resveratrol 98. I take apigenin. I think 200 milligrams. I take
Hmm.
Q-certain, like 100 milligrams. I take I take 6 capsules of alpha. Um, I take a B vitamin complex.
Hmm.
Um, and then we make a multivitamin that's just like 100% daily value. I'm gonna take a half of that.
Right.
Man, let me try to say if I'm leaving anything out. I take a 98% EGCG.
Hmm.
Um, I take, and then there's like some intermittent things that I'll throw in as needed. Like if I feel like I have bad blood flow, I'll take plasma caps, maybe less than a full dose. Like if I wake up and I'm sore, I'll take some
Yeah.
plasma caps. And then at night I kind of repeat the same thing minus anything that's caffeinated or stimulatory. I take sedative every once in a while. I kind of toyed with some super high doses of melatonin for a while. I don't know if I was talking to you about this in the past, but I
Yeah,
might
we
have
did.
been.
Yep. And maybe
But
2 months
man,
ago or 3 months ago we were talking about it.
yeah,
Yeah.
but there's this like pretty hardcore biohacker community that's like really into like like really, really super like official doses of melatonin, like 100, 200 milligram doses with glutathione for like the antioxidant, just like all out.
Yeah.
Melatonin is like a really cool, like it's the strongest antioxidant there is,
Yeah,
like
it's super, super powerful.
yeah, without question. And so I did that a couple times where I think I took 200 milligrams of melatonin at like 9 o'clock at night. The first time I did it, I like put it off for a while. I was really scared, to be honest.
Yeah.
I was talking to Joey about it, and he was like, "No, I don't do that." I was like, "Oh no, this is something Joey doesn't want to do. This is something Joey doesn't want to do. This is bad."
Yeah.
Um, I think he's toyed with it now since, but it wasn't as like profound as I expected it to be. It was just kind of like the height of what you would experience if you take maybe like 5 milligrams of melatonin.
Hmm.
And it just lasted a lot longer. I was like really shocked at the analgesic like kind of effects. Like any uncomfortable like parts of my body went away. Like whether it's like I was sore, or joint pain, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, pretty like felt really good. A lot of like inflammation was gone, and I slept great. And then the next day, I didn't have any like issues.
Hmm.
Really, I don't know, weird. So it's not something I would do that often. But I don't know. There's like melatonin is a weird thing because it's like people get really adamant. Like I know people who have nothing, they don't know anything about supplements, and they'll like go and on and tell me that like melatonin affects your serotonin and it causes depression, and it made their like friend's mom like a schizophrenic, or like something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really know if I buy all that anymore. I
Nah.
used to like kind of acutely just be like, yeah, it's really strong. People don't like realize how strong it is, and so maybe like it should, like there should be more respect given
Mhm.
to it, which it is. Like it's very strong. It's
Agreed.
very at home in your body, and it's like the strongest thing for just generating some natural feelings of sleep,
Yeah.
which is kind of awesome. But I don't know. I don't know what your take is on melatonin.
I really like it. I mean, antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, immune system booster, super,
Hmm.
super powerful. It's very well studied, shown to be effective from like zero point 0.3 to 10 milligrams. The highest
Hmm.
I've ever done is 10 milligrams. I haven't ventured beyond that yet, although, in the several times we've discussed it, I'm getting more and more curious to. I've got 5 milligram little caps in my closet over there, or my pantry. I'm tempted to start like slowly upping the dose, like 5 milligrams at a time. So maybe try like 15 milligrams on Saturday night, 20 milligrams, Sunday or Monday, and then
Yeah, just
take
see. I
none
mean,
for a day
yeah,
or two to see what happens, and then ramp back up to like 25 and see what goes on.
yeah. I didn't have lingering effects or any withdrawal, which is so weird. It's so weird. There's like not that many things out there that work that way. Where like like you got to
Yeah,
like whatever you're doing, if it works, like you're gonna pay for it somehow.
correct.
Like
Yeah,
with whether it's caffeine or um, it's most obvious with stimulants and stuff
and
like
certain
that.
nootropics can leave you feeling zapped out if you're not careful.
Yeah, and I don't really mess with any of the like racemic stuff.
Yeah,
A totally appreciated nootropic is the ketone salts.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I've talked about that before. I don't buy into them at all for an exercise performance standpoint or fat
mhm,
burning or anything, but from like a mental energy standpoint, there's a definitive thing. Like when you take it, I mean, it ignites you cognitively.
mhm,
The only downside I've had, and I've had it a few times with a couple of other products I've tried, and I don't know if it's the interplay between the ketone salts and the caffeine in it. But man, I'll take it, and like an hour afterwards, I'll get like the super stimulating, a very heightened alertness, and then like in an hour, I feel completely bottomed out, and it's almost like a brain fog. It's not
hmm.
from the keto carb product y'all have, but it's from some other nootropics I have that have
Are
ketones and
they are they
caffeine in
s- are they
combination together.
are they salts? Like what
Yeah, it's
is
the
it? A lot
BHB
of
salts.
salt? Mm,
Yeah,
maybe you're just getting a lot of salt. I don't know. Or you could. So I know that there's like there's some genetic variants, and you can, I don't know if you're into that like whole thing, but you can run your DNA with like 23andMe and me or whatever, and then
hmm
export your code into like one of these like self. I think it's called self code or something like that. That I put mine in a while back, and like certain people metabolize ketone salts like way more rapidly and way more efficiently than other people. And so, like, if
okay,
you're one of those people, which I am, you get like a lot more benefit from keto salts.
hmm
And then like other people, it's kind of maybe a combination of like a little bit of keto salts and some carbs and whatnot. But I didn't even know that was a thing until like 2 months ago. And then I was like, oh, maybe that's why some people just don't like them, and I can't figure out why. But like, if I take like a couple grams of that stuff and I haven't eaten in a while, like
yeah,
I get like a marked like improvement in like motivation and like recall and
yeah,
and all kinds of things like that. The only issue in the past has been it's like really salty stuff. So
right.
then you get like high blood pressure from that. Um, anyway, yeah. So that all those things are in my routine somewhere. I probably only I consume like 2 espressos in the morning for caffeine, and that's it.
Yeah,
I don't usually, unless it's like a weekend day or something, I don't really have caffeine in the afternoon. Every once in a while, maybe somebody's got an energy drink they want me to try or something.
hmm
I'll take like 2 grams of CDP choline though, like
two
maybe once or
grams
twice
worth.
a week, and hmm
Holy cow!
you got to take 2 grams, man. That's like the best clinical there is on it.
I mean, the highest I've done, I think, in a single day is maybe 600 milligrams of CDP choline because I've got 300 milligram capsules of it. I've never gone over a gram of CDP choline or alpha
So
GPC.
like 2 grams of CDP choline with some Adrenal and an espresso and some nicotinamide mononucleotide is like the
Yeah.
jam. It's like preposterously luxurious, but we talked about that too. We were like, man,
Yeah.
can we figure out how to put NMN in something? But I don't know if we're there
Yeah.
yet. But and I don't know if you have any experience with that stuff, but um, it's kind of it's noticeable after a while. And if you take too much, it's really noticeable,
Mhm.
which Joey 100% did. 100%. I remember coming in one day and
Figures.
he was like, "Hey man, when you take the NMN in the morning, like do your hands shake at all?" And I was like, how much are you taking? I just take the gram a day, like the David Sinclair, like whole thing. I take the gram a
Yeah.
day. I think that's gonna work over time. Or replenish adipose. That's cool. Joe
Right.
was like, oh well, I mean, I think it took like 3 grams this morning, and I was like, why are you doing that? I was like, that's bizarre, but he
Yeah.
was like, it just does this for a while, and I was like, what does it feel like? Low blood sugar? And he was like, I don't really know. I think my cells are just buzzing, and I was it's just one of those. Yeah, I don't know. So I guess like kind of luxurious exposure to stuff to mess around with,
Yeah.
which is fun. But yeah, 2 grams of CDP. That's when you feel it. That's when you really feel it.
I might have to try that. I've
And it's
done
not just the
200.
choline that you feel.
Yeah,
Two
it's the
fifty.
cytidine part that goes into because
Mm-hmm.
I've stacked 300 milligrams of CDP choline with 250 milligrams of uridine monophosphate. So, I mean, that's kind of what
Mm-hmm.
the cytidine
Yeah.
is converting to ultimately in the body. So I've done that stacked together, and
Mm-hmm.
that's really potent. Plus, I like the dopamine receptor protection it offers too.
Mm-hmm.
Just because we're always dabbling with some of the exotic stimulants. We get you and I. You probably get to try a bunch of different pre-workout stuff, or some of the like the DMHAs and the other exotic stimulants, which can have maybe some dopamine down regulation. So taking some of those things kind
Not
of
for a
helps
long,
protect that.
not for a long time, man.
Yeah.
Like I haven't. I don't know. We used to like we used to like 2 years ago or so. Like that was like
Mhm.
something that like DMHA might be around, but like I don't. In the last 2 years, there's just like not uh something I get a ton of exposure with. So, like you would probably know better than I would, like what those are, how they work, and things like that. I
Yeah.
My experience with the DMHA is I hated it. It lasts like way too long.
Yeah.
Um, and then back in the day, DMAA was kind of awesome.
Yeah.
But like that shit just made you high. You know what I mean? Like just like
Yeah.
euphoric stimulant. And then I don't know. I think we were talking about before we got online a little bit. Like I think the synephrine and the right combination of things is actually pretty cool because it
Right.
does actually kind of potentiate some of that stuff. Um, Trying to think of the most stimulatory thing. I don't know if you ever messed with the Pro Vigil. I mean, this isn't a supplement. It's not
Well,
something
yeah,
we can
no,
tell.
and I've never messed with anything like that or any of the other modafinil derivatives like the flowmodafinil or the
But
armodafinil
that shit,
or drafinil. I've never messed around with these. I've got, I think, an old bottle of some nootropic that has some drafinil in it, but the concern over some of the liver effects always gave me pause. But I've read conflicting things on whether it's actually as harsh as it's been, perceived to be.
okay, yeah. I That's one that I thought I like made an impression because it's not an amphetamine.
Mhm.
I don't even know what the class of drug it is. But that one I thought was pretty cool. Uh, it's not a supplement though, and it's not something I
No,
can
definitely
use.
not.
There was some company that was like selling like a pro drug of it. I forget what it was called. This is like a couple years ago.
Yeah,
Um, I think it was like armodafinil or like some kind of like it like turned into the drug. It doesn't make any
yeah,
goddamn sense, anyways, because it's like okay, so it's a drug that turns into another drug.
yeah.
It's
It's a
like
two-stage kind of thing.
yeah. So like in any situation, this isn't dietary. Uh, yeah. I don't know. Have you come across any cool nootropics in the dietary supplement space?
I mean, I love Neurofactor. Lion's mane y'all
Okay.
already have in Adrenal, and you've got sulbutamine, which I did a detailed article and explainer on that. I want to say 4 years ago now. Maybe it was that
So we
2016 or
talk, yeah.
2017. I
What do
love
you
that
think
ingredient.
about then if we're going to talk about sylbutamine, what do you think about thiamine mononitrate?
Say that again.
Thymine mononitrate?
I have not messed with that one by itself. Then
Okay.
I've only done sulbutamine. I haven't done the other form of it.
Okay. So that one is the more sustainable form,
Okay.
which you should check it out. I don't think it's as significant. I know that sulbutamine you can't flavor it because it tastes like bile,
Correct.
and
Yeah,
so
and I don't know if it's even. I mean, is it one of those gray area ingredients that some people let
you
it,
know,
some people don't?
apparently, well, in Europe, it's like a drug,
Right.
um, and then in the United States, it's like trying to grab smoke because it's like a B vitamin,
Exactly.
um,
Yeah.
and there's I think there's certain situations where it's like been alleged to not be a dietary supplement, and then
Mhm.
there's others where it's like a company like Life Extension will use it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then same kind of thing with NAC. So our
Yeah.
position on that's like probably changing, but I think I'll send you the other form of it that's got it's easier to use in Europe and seems to be like less problematic.
Okay.
Um, and you can tell me if you think it works as well.
Okay. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most of the other nootropics. I mean, it's probably common stuff that you've tried. I like uridine monophosphate. I like CDP choline, Neurofactor, lion's mane. I mean, that's. I wish somebody would just come out with like a bulk form of Neurofactor because every product, I would just have to find it in other products, but I just want to get like single capsules of just 100 or 200 milligrams of Neurofactor, and I would use that every day. I get as much like a
And that's
mental
the
awakening.
coffee Arabica. And what is it exactly that's
It's
in?
a coffee fruit extract, so it's not like actual coffee bean extract. It's from the coffee fruit, and from which like the beans are inside of the fruit. And
Okay.
then it upregulates brain-derived neurotrophic factor. So it kind of works similar to what lion's mane does. So lion's mane does nerve growth factor, and brain-derived neurotrophic factor is like a steroid for your brain, where it enhances the regeneration, the growth,
Mm-hmm.
survival of all the
Mm-hmm.
neurons in there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's even if I take it without caffeine, you still get like a mental switching on, like you would with the BHB salts, or if you just took a really huge dose of lion's mane by itself. At least
Really?
anecdotally, for me, lion's mane has that same kind of effect on me.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
Does so it
I
feels kind of like caffeine like there's no caffeine content in it at all?
I mean, if it's like 0.00004% or something like that, to where it's completely negligible.
No kidding.
But
Okay.
yeah,
I'll have to look at
I'll
that.
send
I
you.
think I've always just like kind of glossed over it
Yeah,
as like a caffeine or like a coffee spin-off,
yeah,
which I guess it is, but if you're into it, then I should probably give it a second
yeah.
look.
I've got an article on the website. I'll send you that because it kind of breaks down the different studies that have been done to this point. You can see, you and Joey can talk it over and see if it's, if maybe I missed something in my analysis of it, and if y'all can, please alert me to it. And then,
Maybe,
uh,
but yeah, I'm sure Joey will find something.
yeah, it's a super cool ingredient. I think it's vastly underrated. I
Hmm.
mean, there's some other things that upregulate BDNF, but I mean, I like Neurofactor, and I
Someone
don't
sent
think
me
it's
like
that expensive.
someone sent me their like, I haven't used it, but someone sent me like a peptide
Hmm.
that like upregulates BNDF at like an exponential rate. I forget what it
Really?
was called. Yeah, I don't know if you're like a Ben Greenfield fan or if you know who that guy
Oh
is.
yeah, yeah. I've listened
That
to
guy's
several of
like,
his podcasts.
yeah, that guy's like a he's just like a lab rat.
Yeah, he takes things
And
to a whole other level of like
yeah, which is
biohacking and supplementation.
I wouldn't do it. I don't always agree with it. I kind of appreciate it and I find it incredibly entertaining.
Hmm.
And what was it? Yeah, he was talking about like I think it's called dihexa. And it's like it's you'll probably look it up, but it's I think it's like exponentially stronger than BNDF at doing all of the same things. And I was
Hmm.
like, huh. Like, how long is it going to be before like the nootropic crowd is like, we've got the bodybuilder crowd that's like sort of cracked the code of like now we have people that look like they aren't people anymore.
Oh yeah.
Um, how long is it before like the biohackers start becoming that way? Um, you know,
Oh yeah.
kind of wild.
I got the Wikipedia tab pulled up on it. I'm gonna have to go and look into it. It says it's
I
an
think that's the right one.
oligopeptide
Does it?
derived from angiotensin 4.
Yeah. Does that look like the right thing?
Yeah, compound has been found to potently improve cognitive function in animal models of Alzheimer's disease, like impairment. In an assay of neurotrophic activity, it was found to be 7 orders of magnitude more potent than brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Holy hell! Okay. Well,
Yeah.
at least in lab rats. So, huh?
hmm
Okay, okay.
I know,
So
right? Like
this
like you
leads to
stumble upon something like that, and you're like, "What?" I'm like trying to do that all the time.
yeah,
Uh, yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna like. I'm not about to order this, but like, I don't think you. I don't even know where you'd find a real source for it. But it was
no,
like really cool to find
yeah,
something like that. Take lines made for that purpose every day.
yep.
Do you like Bacopa? Uh,
Yes, I do
you
love
do.
Bacopa. I take 300 milligrams of the bacterized form every day.
Okay.
I've got that stuff tastes awful. The raw powder of that tastes awful. Rhodiola rosea raw
hmm
tastes awful. I typically
hmm
do teacrine most days. I don't like dynamine. I do not. It's that
I gotta
that,
get your take on. I gotta get your take on teacrine, and I don't want to. I don't want to talk shit on anyone, so I'm not going to. But I gotta get your
yeah.
take on it. So you're obviously a fan of it.
Yeah, I mean, I will at
Do you
the right
take it
dose
for
because
like for sleep or like to relax or
no,
for
I
the
take the
opposite?
125 milligram dose with caffeine, and that's really for most days. Like that's all I need: a cup of coffee, a cap of teacrine, and that I've been more productive with that than if I take like a fully loaded nootropic or something in the morning.
Do
I'm
you
in
feel
the
like it
zone.
just
I'm
brings
happy.
the caffeine down like a little bit? Is that what it does?
No, I mean I feel more productive and a little bit more upbeat. I think than just pure
All
caffeine
right.
alone. I don't get any sedative effects from teacrine unless it's used in combination with dynamine. Almost every product I've tried the three of them in, it makes me tired. But caffeine and teacrine by itself, I feel great. Caffeine and dynamine, I don't really feel much of any difference. And I mean, I've been able to test dynamine just by itself with 200 milligrams of caffeine and dynamine doses all the way from like 0, 50, 100, 200. And I've never gotten much of anything. And I don't like to say that because I know the guys at Compound Solutions, I respect what they're doing. I like them that, they were nice enough to invite us to the party they had at Supply Side West last year.
Yeah.
And so I love the team over there. Dynamine, I don't like that ingredient.
I I of the two of them, I get effects from dynamine,
Hmm.
and then from theacrine, I just really haven't ever found a home for it in my own routine.
Hmm.
And I just found like a bunch of confusing research over it. And then I don't know if it's like one of those things where the ketones work for people who metabolize them well, and then
Yeah.
not like I don't know if it's one of those things. Um, or not, but like that's kind of interesting. I mean, the fact that you like it really messes with my head because like I respect your opinion enough to like question my own. And so
Yeah.
it's like one of those things I got to come back and look at some point. But like there was a point in time where I took like a ton of it. I did it with Joey too. I was like,
Hmm.
okay, we're just going to settle this today. I want a DR cap 500 milligram, or I want a DR cap a gram of theacrine and like see what happens.
Yeah.
And I didn't have I didn't have much to write home about. So like
Yeah. It's subtle, but I mean, it just prolongs the energy and mood high for me. Is the way is the way I my reaction to it. It's not something that's like a pow, like an Urea Durensis or like a CDP Choline that kind of like mentally stimulates you. It just keeps the focus and productivity going longer. But if you take too low of a dose, because the energy curve on it is an inverted U or a bell shaped curve, to where if you go too low, it's sedative. You go too high, it's sedative. So that's why
mhm.
like that 100 to 150
that's
milligram range is that sweet spot.
that's what yeah, that was my conclusion in like the I don't know I don't know if it's compound stuff or older studies on it, but like when
Hmm.
I looked into it, I was like, oh, this is like a sleep thing.
Yeah.
uh, because of the impact that it has on caffeine. I think there was
Right.
like a group where they ran like control caffeine, theacrine caffeine, and then the theacrine caffeine group had the same, like they looked the same as the group that was the control.
Yeah.
And so like the conclusion was that it sort of negated like some of the anxiety and things like that with
Hmm.
caffeine,
Yeah.
which I think is really lucrative. I usually do that with theanine
Hmm.
instead, uh, which is like exponentially cheaper.
Correct. Yeah. It's much, much
And
cheaper.
it's like I don't know if you've ever tried to flavor theacrine or dynamine, but like,
I've
oh
just
my gosh,
tasted the raw powder by itself. It's god awful. It's as bad as raw
it's like,
rhodiola.
yeah, it's like bile, like
Yeah.
it literally. So I don't know, but dynamine, I get a really very strong effect from dynamine.
Hmm.
Like just really aggressive, caffeine like feeling. I don't
Yeah.
know how to explain it. And I don't know if that happens for everyone either. Really cool though. Interesting, standardized stuff. Um, I
Agreed.
don't know. I don't know. We have yet to find a home. I think we have something that we're working on that's coming out that Compound's gonna help us out with, which is gonna be really cool. Uh,
Sweet.
and then I don't know, that's interesting though. Now I'm gonna like I was being serious. Like now I'm gonna have to go back and take that stuff a bunch of times
Yeah.
to figure out why. Um, hmm, yeah, I don't
It's
know.
gonna be.
I gotta
It's
see.
probably differences in individual neurochemistry, if I had to guess, because you respond
I
really
know,
well
but
to
it can't
dynamine.
be.
I don't get much of anything from dynamine, or I get tired if it's used in combination with caffeine and teacrine. So it's yeah.
I know, but I just don't like. I won't accept the fact that we're that different biologically. That,
Right.
you know what I mean? The ketones I get because um, metabolism is different, like
Hmm.
100%. And so people who metabolize ketones really quickly also like are very likely to have similar uh, insulin responses and stuff like that. And so like
Yeah.
they've like mapped that out and it's there.
Hmm.
Um, the neurochemistry piece, I guess you could be right. I don't know enough about that yet. And then if you are right, that means that like we can just take all this stuff that we're doing and just like throw it up in the air because
Yes.
like, you know, we're doing like there's so much nuance to some of these formulas and how they're
Oh yeah.
received by different groups and stuff like that. And when it's funny because like when we first launched some of our products, like we just got like roasted in the price plow forums, like
Hmm.
roasted. Like I don't know if you were there to see any of that.
Mm-mm.
Um, and I guess they're known for that. I didn't really know, haven't paid attention to them since like we were thrown into that fire. And then I remember going in there and looking and like somebody at Price Paul was like, "Hey Joey, you might want to jump in here." And then he did,
Yeah.
and that was like the worst thing he could have ever done because it's like you can't win that battle.
Yeah.
Um, but anything subclinical is like, you
Heresy.
know, yeah, it's terrible, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And then from my perspective, like I'm exposed to luxurious amounts of this stuff all the time. Okay,
Yeah.
all the time. There's a clinical on 2 grams of CDP choline. There is. It upregulates dopamine receptor density.
Hmm.
It has like all kinds of other effects on like cell membranes, like over time. Like there's like all kinds of cool things that happen when you do that. But there's negative things that happen when you do that too. Like you get really cloudy when you get too much choline like
Right.
circulating. Like you just get this like headache like recall, you know?
Yeah. Or you're in a
Uh,
haze and you can't really be productive or focus.
right. So
This is
like how do you
the experience I
explain
get with
that?
it.
How do you explain that kind of nuance to someone
Right.
that's talking about a pre-workout? You know what I mean? You're like, all right, well, this product is to deliver, like, first and foremost, it's just to deliver an experience that makes, like, compels someone to work out harder,
Hmm.
right? Because all the performance enhancing things that we put in a pre-workout can be taken, like, in and around that time. They don't need to be taken pre-workout.
Correct.
Like if you take, you know what I mean? Like if you take
Oh yeah.
creatine or citrulline or like these staple ingredients like amino acids, protein, like some of them, it's obvious you don't take them right before you work out. Other ones like kind of got wrapped into it, and that's cool. Convenience, like, I'll give you the motivation to work out and the steps to recover all in one thing, and that's great.
Yeah.
But like I remember sitting back, and I guess I just hadn't been exposed to it for that long, and I was thinking like, it's preposterous. Like, what? Like, who gives a shit? Like, obviously, what's in this tub is just to, like, it's to craft an experience that compels someone to work out harder.
Correct.
Like, that's what it is. And then we're gonna have a conversation about, like, you know, clinical doses of, like, beta alanine or choline or whatever. Um, I forget what the main issue was. I think that people were saying we didn't have a clinical dose of choline, and I was kind of like, all right, well, yeah, but maybe you don't want a clinical dose of choline,
Yeah, there's more
or it doesn't
nuance
make
to
sense.
formulation.
Well, there is there certainly is, and I suppose that it's like really that's an out though for anyone that wants to just do something shitty.
Yeah.
Um, and then I was having that kind of conversation with someone else earlier. Where it's like, or maybe it was last night, late last night. I was talking to somebody about that with, and I was like, you can't expect consumers to just know what you're doing is more thoughtful,
Yeah.
right? Like, um, how do I explain to someone like that Myoseek or Xeno was way more labor intensive and thoughtful than an EAA that tastes just as good and is priced the same and looks just
Yeah.
as good on the shelf somewhere, right?
Right.
Like I could get into an argument with someone over whether or not like 9 EAAs is better than Myoseek, and we can't really determine whether one or not is better at this time. Like, if we go
Right.
run a clinical, maybe at some point we can't, like, we can determine that, but we can definitely with certainty say, like, we make products for people that have 9 amino acids in them. We have access to that. It's not
Yeah.
outside of our wheelhouse. It would be quite simple for us to do that.
Hmm.
It's not quite simple for us to premix 20 amino acids together and then run a ratio of skeletal muscle tissue and then make sure that it matches and then flavor 20 amino acids when it's not typically what we flavor. And then all these
Right.
flavor houses build amino blockers for 9 amino acids or for 3. And so, like, there's outlines anyway. So it's like, how do you translate that to a consumer? You would get it. Like, I could have that conversation with you and you'd be like, yeah, man, that
Yeah.
makes total sense. Like, it's obvious to me, like, you're offering me this product at the same price, and like, I know you put way more work into it, and like, I'm going to give it a chance. That's
Right.
awesome. How do you convert that conversation to the consumer level? Can you
That's
probably
the
never can.
challenge. No, I mean that's
Can't,
the challenge. I
right?
mean, you got consumer advocates like me, and the other outlets that are trying to educate people on the thing. But I mean, it's super labor intensive from the brand standpoint. It's almost I don't even know if there's going to be a worthwhile return on investment either for the time you would spend in developing content, graphics, videos, blog articles, and all of that stuff.
Right. So we're just like, at this point, we're just not willing to just settle for that.
Yeah.
And we'll see. People like you have like really like punted our brand into existence. You know what I mean? Like, we got like a really awesome reception from people like you in the industry, and that
Yeah.
made a huge difference. It's like I'm definitely like trying to give back to that. I owe you and people like yourself like down the road, because like that's how we kind of got where we're like this. It's like this industry insider brand that like just got a lot of buy-in from people that matter, and it
Yeah.
made a huge difference. um from my perspective, like, it's just the layers of the brand. So like, hopefully, like, we can make a really cool flavor and a really cool package, and then somebody will buy our product because we convinced the people to put it on the shelf somewhere, and maybe we convince them because of the package or the flavor, or maybe we convince them for the same reasons that you like us.
Yeah.
um Whatever it is, hopefully someday someone that buys that product, like, they start thinking about the brand a little bit more. Should I buy this again? And like, if they do want to go and like peek behind the curtain to see like how many layers are there, they'll find like a preposterous amount of like cool shit.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully that's the way it works. That's the best case scenario. The worst case scenario is that like it sells like decently, and no, maybe like 70% of the people that consume it really don't understand um, the
Right.
effort. Long tangent, but I think that's kind of interesting.
No, and
The
that's
person that someone, go ahead.
I was gonna say I was a doubter. The first time I saw a panel on Stack 3D, I thought, okay. I mean, it's good. The branding is cool, but I'm looking at the dosage. I'm thinking, and then I tried the product and I said, all right. I mean, I tried 2 or 3 different things because Sam sent me a package, I think, before the brand officially launched. I tried them. I thought, all right, I'm going to trust these guys because, a label is just a label. Like TJ at Fitness Deal News says, it's just a label. And
Yeah.
then, I mean, once you start using the products, you understand you guys are got some secret sauce going on, and I'm a believer. So yeah.
I hope so. I hope so. Cause it's like, there are situations where like we have the access and the know-how to just like copy or not copy, but like kind of fit into, all right, cool. 3.2 grams of beta alanine and X, Y, Z, whatever.
Yeah.
That if we can hit this price tier and we make it taste better and look better, we'll win.
Right.
And then there's enough experience here and access to things where you're like, no, 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 no. Because like if it was me, I wouldn't do that. I would do this,
Yeah.
this with this because it's better because it just is.
Right.
How do you translate that without? I mean, sampling I guess has gone really well. I think that's like mostly like specimens sort of like that because it's just a really overt take on what a pre-workout really is. You know what I mean? It's not a recovery product. It's sort of a performance product, but it's really an experiential product that like people look forward to, and it compels people to push themselves harder. There's a lot of like feeling and sensation involved in that kind of event for people. I don't know if you are a pre-workout user in that sense, but I think if you get really down to the meat of like why most people take a pre-workout, it's because
Yeah.
they're chasing an experience.
Correct.
It has
Yeah, I've had
nothing
that
to do.
conversation a lot.
Yeah, yeah, and then taking that straight on is risky,
Hmm. Yes,
right?
I've had
Addressing
that
that.
conversation several times. Is the pre-workout? I mean, what's having more of the effect? The energy, focus, and mood enhancing components. Is that helping you push harder in your workout, or is it citrulline, betaine, beta alanine? Every person I've talked to, it's always the mental side that's really driving it. Because I mean,
Hmm.
sure, we'll get a little bit better ammonia buffering and fatigue resistance enhancement from beta alanine, betaine, and all that. But it's really, can you alter somebody's mental state to wanted them to push past that point of discomfort and achieve a new level of greatness?
Hmm. No, and
So
that like you can't beat that. You know what I mean? Like
agreed.
I mean, rarely can you beat that. What I mean, like, I forget what it was. I read a book on it a long time ago, and it was kind of like the psychology of powerlifting,
Yeah.
and it's like there's people who like spend a lot of time like meditating and like sort of hacking that out, and they lift like a preposterously larger amount of weight per size, like per uh like and in the ratio of their own weight because of
Yeah.
their like mental edge that they have, and it's just like it's just brute like brain power
Oh yeah.
that like kind of compels people to do more. Kind of awesome, like kind of a cool.
Yep.
And then that whole thing is a long time ago I met another guy who actually recommended that book, but he was a sports psychologist, and he did like sports psychology work for like NFL teams and MLB teams and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like he would make people become like all stars, or like they're
Interesting.
on the edge of it, but like he would
Yeah.
like work with them for like months and like just adjusting their psychology and how they frame their thoughts, and um like sort of some of the gratitude that they have, like those sorts of things like make them more malleable and like more likely to reach that like zen like uh I think Phil Jackson used the same kind of terminology, but like
Hmm.
you get this like flow state where like you're not gonna miss. I'm not
Right.
gonna miss.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna miss. It might happen to me or you like once a year. But if you can like if you're one of those guys that's just naturally that gifted, like, and you can tap into it on on a more regular basis, it's pretty
Hmm.
powerful. Um, Not to discredit like the value of supplements, in our own livelihoods, but like that's a real thing, I think.
Absolutely,
Uh,
man. But dude, Mike,
anyway,
this is we were almost coming up on the 2 hour mark. This conversation has gone all sorts of directions, but
oh yeah,
it's been thoroughly enjoyable, and I'm glad we finally got to do this. It's been a
yeah,
long
man.
time coming, dude. So thank you for being generous with your time today, making a kick-ass brand and bringing some cool products to the market.
Yeah.
And this is the point where you can shamelessly plug anything and everything you want to about Glaxon.
Ah, man, you know what? I'm not the best at doing that. I feel like most people don't know who I even am. But if you want to check us out at glaxon.com, please do that. You can check out our Instagram at I am Glaxon. We have a lot of cool stuff coming. We have a lot of cool stuff that we've already done. It's all right there for you to see. Check it out.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you again for the time today. And I don't do plugs for brands. Most of the people I put on this podcast, there's a few brands I will, but you guys are doing some really good shit. So for the listeners out there, I
Appreciate
would
it.
encourage you to, give it a shot. At least, try the Serenity, try the Super Greens, or the Adrenal. Those are three of the ones that I've tried and I've really, really enjoyed. So yeah.
Thank you.
So thank you
Thank
again,
you.
Mike, and have a
Yeah,
fantastic day.
I will. You too.